Hello, everyone. Welcome to another fun-filled EA Zoom meeting with your host, Ryan Evans, who can be found on the web at www.ryanevansastrology.com. Real quickly, I am a certified master-level astrologer with the Forrest School of Evolutionary Astrology. I've been studying this stuff for I guess about 25 years now, if I really think about it. That means I'm getting very old, and we hope that there is wisdom that can be sussed out of that life experience. At least that's what any good Sagittarian can hope for. So the title of this little talk here is about ethics and boundaries, channeling and prediction. It's about connecting with your client, but it's most importantly, I want to stress that this is for anyone who looks at anybody else's chart besides their own. This is for, and this talk is actually, in my estimation, incredibly valuable, meaningful, and essential for anyone and everyone who does the old, oh, let me look at your chart. Oh, you have a Venus-Mars conjunction in 5th house Scorpio. Oh, and the other person's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? If you ever find yourself in that situation, then this talk is for you. Because when we are talking astrology, it is my experience that just about anything and everything can be answered, or at the very least given an educated guess about any question. Any question. What should I be when I grow up? Oh, well, let's look at this and this and this and this and this. Oh, what's best for relationship? Oh, well, where's your Venus and what's on your descendant? And there's so many, there's every question, let's face it, that we can give at least an educated guess answer for. So this astrology stuff is incredibly powerful. And like Uncle Ben said to Peter Parker in the movie Spider-Man, he said, always remember, Peter, that with great power comes great responsibility. So, we're going to look at somebody's chart. And this is this is a parody, what you're about to witness. Hi there. So I'm the astrologer and you're the client. Hi there. Yes, my name's Ryan Evans. I'm a professional astrologer, yes, and I've been studying this stuff for 25 years. And I'm going to look at your chart, full of its own magic and mystery and pain and drama and horror and, oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, we'll talk about that later. And, oh my goodness, okay, yes, and yes, it's true. I can see your past, and yes, I can see your past lives, and I can see what kind of family you grew up in, and oh, maybe you should not have said that to your mother when you were 4, because I could imagine, but we'll talk about that later. And I can look at your past lives too, and I can see all of the ways in which you're doing it wrong, in which you're messing up, in which you're falling asleep at the wheel. Yes, in fact, looking at this chart, I could rip out your soul and chew it up and spit it out in front of you, go like this, say, have a nice day, give me $100. At least that is one possibility of what the client might be thinking. I have the power that I know. Hi. I know more about you than you do. So I have all of this power and I can see your future. So that can be an incredibly scary place for your client or your friend or your mother or whoever's chart you're looking at to be in. And so when we engage, as soon as we open up a chart and look at that chart in relation to another human being, we are basically getting a window to the entirety of their soul's evolution. $5. I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I'll have an order of French fries and a large shake, and can you give me a heap and helping of that past life trauma, please? So when we, as astrologers, open up the chart, look at it, we have to enter a relationship with that individual that is nothing less than sacred. And so we, as astrologers, have to have incredible humility and open-mindedness, non-judgment, no bias. We have to be incredibly tolerant of diversity, and we can pass zero judgment on any shadow experience that any human has ever had. Oh, let's see. Oh, hi, what's your name? Oh, thank you. Yeah, sit down. Adolf Hitler. Okay, well, let's have a look at your chart. And if for some strange reason, Adolf Hitler, whom I would hope most of us equate with the epitome of evil in humanity, he comes in to have a reading with me, I have to treat him as a soul that is evolving, that is learning lessons, and the fact that they are here in my office means that they are interested and engaged in, at the very, very, very least, a little bit more self-knowledge as to how to be happier. So Adolf Hitler comes in and sits down for a reading, and it becomes my job, my duty, my prerogative to help that soul understand the challenges and predicaments, conundrums, trauma, etc., that has contributed to the flow of events in their life, and how to take that knowledge, take that experience, turn it into wisdom, and how to realign their life, their perception, their relationships, their energy, their mission, their purpose, their test, etc. How to realign that in what I, as an astrologer, with my own opinion on the topic, says is Adolf Hitler's best set of choices from this point on. If I spend my time, and this is, you just have to ride with me, if I spend my time sitting there saying, oh, this is Adolf Hitler, oh my gosh, he's responsible for the deaths of millions of, and all the war and all the tragedy, or, pick your bad guy, then I am not going to do an effective job at healing that soul. And hold on, let me rephrase that. I'm going to back up. I do not heal souls. We do not heal souls. We are not astrologers who are healing souls. We are presenting them with a language of information that they can choose to use for their benefit or not. And here's the other part. Maybe some of the things I say are wrong. And so we have to enter this astrology stuff as astrologers. When we relate to our client, we have to enter, again, we have to engage this with humility and patience and open-mindedness and tolerance of diversity and such incredible compassion that even if we have a mass murderer that is sitting across from us, we can still find it in our hearts to channel as much positive, encouraging information as we can see in the charts for the hopeful potential upliftment of a soul. Hey, maybe you could choose, hey, Adolf Hitler, maybe it would be better if you went to art school. Maybe it would be a great, why don't you just sit and paint by the river and see how you feel? You know, looking at his chart, and he comes into my office before he becomes a Fuhrer, I might say something like this, what little I know of his chart. And it is not my job to change him. It's not my job to heal his soul. It is my job to be a translator of the archetypology. And that's what we are. We are translators. And we can put on that translation as much, you know, on the carrier wave of that, as much healing, as much encouragement, as much, you know, positive vibration, man, as we can possibly put on that. But when it comes down to it, all we can do is offer suggestions through our translation. And so what I would like to say is that it becomes very, very, very important to have what I've come to call my disclaimer that I will say at the beginning of every astrology reading, so that I can connect with this client in a way that basically says everything I just said. I can connect with a client in a way that they're not going to, that maybe they have some trepidation. Oh, what's the astrologer going to say? Oh, am I going to get into a car accident in 2 weeks? Am I going to lose all my money when the stock market's supposed to crash, when Uranus goes into Taurus? Oh. So I set up, and my suggestion for you as astrologers is to have a very clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minute monologue about, hey, these are the ground rules. This is where I'm coming from. This is what to expect. This is what I expect of you. This is how I'd like you to perceive me. And this is how I'd like you to perceive this astrology stuff, so that we're on that same page. And when you get on that same page, then the client feels a little more comfortable. Now, granted, you engage every client differently depending on their ascendant, because you're going to engage a Cancer rising with, you know, a little more kindness. You're not going to be very invasive. Whereas if your client is a Scorpio rising, you are going to look them in the eye. And they're most likely going to want it intense. Leave some silences. Good Scorpio rising connection. So, the disclaimer part. I'm going to give you my disclaimer that I give at the beginning of every reading, and then I'm going to pick it apart and I'm going to talk about it. So it sounds like this. Hi there. My name is Ryan Evans, and I'm a certified master-level astrologer with the Stephen Forrest School of Evolutionary Astrology. I've been studying this stuff for about 25 years, and I even went through a disproving stage where I wasn't going to let anything outside of myself tell me anything about myself. That didn't last very long, and so here I am, certified. The stuff works. It feels really good. And here's my disclaimer. I'm about to read your chart full of its own magic and mystery and pain and drama and horror, and I have one of these too. I say, and it's true, I have my own astrologer that I will call up and say, what am I going to do about the inconjunct between the ruler of my north node and my north node? I can't figure it out. So I can sometimes be blind to my own stuff, which also means sometimes I'm blind to some of your stuff. So don't expect perfection. I'm not going to know everything. I'm not going to see everything. But it is my job to clear away my own stuff and be an effective translator for what these archetypes say. So therefore, you, my client, are getting my opinion as to what these symbols mean. Because let's face it, it is my opinion. You go to another astrologer, they might say the same thing. They might do it differently. It might be a little differently. It's another opinion. This is a translation. And this is very important. I am a consultant, not a counselor. You are paying me for my opinion as to what these symbols mean. Still, this is pretty powerful stuff in my experience. So I adhere to all codes and ethics that would a doctor, lawyer, priest, or psychologist. This is sacred space. I also say 2 more things. I don't really remember the readings, so I have a lot of local clients. So if you see me at the co-op, don't be like, oh, hey, there's the guy who knows all about my Pluto-Moon opposition. Yeah, oh, hi. So I don't remember the readings. I read it like a bedtime book. I translate it, and then I've got a dump file. I flush it. I don't really remember readings. That can not serve me sometimes when I have repeat clients. I have to be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But it serves me great because I'm Neptunian and I will hold on to all of that stuff like a sponge. And I don't want to do it. So we ring that out and say, have a nice day. $100, please, or whatever. And finally, I always like to say, I don't do prediction. That's good or bad. So let's jump in. And then we go into my format, which will be another EA Zoom meeting. But if I can connect with the client on this level, they're like, okay, so the guy's not going to try to extort money from me. You know, he's seeing, Jupiter transit come up, and he's not like, oh, I want you to play the lottery and give me 10%. This guy, he's not claiming to know everything. Wow, that's cool. This guy is a human and he makes mistakes too. Oh, that's cool. Okay. All right. And so then you approach the client in this way, and they don't feel like you're the big astrologer who knows all the secrets of the universe and, like I said earlier, is going to rip apart and chew up your soul and spit it out in front of you. Oh, you've got your own astrologer too? Cool. So, number 1, connecting with that client. I have my own chart. That is so refreshing to clients. Oh my gosh, you're working through stuff too? Oh, you've got stuff just like me? You don't have the mysteries of the universe figured out? It takes a lot of that pressure off. I don't know if, in your early days of studying astrology and you went to your first astrology reading, how did you feel? Oh my gosh, what are they going to say? Oh wow, I hope this is going to be really cool. Even that. The amount of projection onto what that is going to be is so intense. So if you can say, hey, I'm a human. I've got limitations. I can't see everything. The client goes, okay, that's cool. Some of them will say, but I want you to see everything. And then you say, all right, well, we can turn it up and we can look at these dispositors and we can look at the midpoints and we can look at the rays and we can go deeper and we can look at the tertiary progressions and we can just really pick it apart if you really want to. Most people don't want to go too deep, just tell it like it is. So you want to give it to them like it is. Now, The next thing, very, very, very important. Unless you are a licensed therapist, and those laws vary from state to state. Unless you are a licensed therapist, legally, you have no right to tell people what to do and get money for it. Therefore, to protect yourself from the law, you are a consultant offering your opinion as to what the symbols mean and how it may or may not relate to them. Very, very important, because this is what could happen. So what happens if somebody does what you say and it doesn't work? Oh, I went and I applied for that job and you said I was going to get that job and it looked really good and I didn't get it. In fact, on the way there, I totally got stuff. I spilled coffee on my shirt and the bus splashed water on me. And you said that I was going to get that job because Jupiter was transiting my midheaven, and you know what? I mean, you see, you don't want to hear that from your client. Or what happens if someone does what you suggest they do, and it works out really good for them, and it really hurts somebody else? How about this one? Let's say person A goes to an astrologer, and this astrologer's excessively predictive and says, oh, this is the way it is, and you should do this, and you shouldn't do that, and this is the way you should go, and don't turn right, you should always turn left when you come to a corner. I know of one person who went to an astrologer. That person was engaged to another person, but the astrologer told this person, and they practiced let's just say a very cut and dry, black and white, do it, don't do it type of astrology. And that person said, no, you shouldn't be getting married to this person. You should be enemies. True story. And then that person left the astrologer and spent the next 3 months proving him right. So, which came first, the chicken or the egg? The client was happily engaged to the other person, went and saw the astrologer. The astrologer said, oh no, you shouldn't be married. You're enemies. Your Venus is opposing his Mars or Venus or whatever it was. That's the way it is. They then spent the next 4 months proving them right. And those people are now, quote unquote, enemies, where they were in the past engaged to be married. Now, we can come to the future and say, oh, hey, that was a great thing. Oh, great. Look how happy they both are. Great. Maybe the astrologer was right. But whose job is it to make that decision? Oh, you should be enemies. You shouldn't get married. That's called irresponsibility. Please don't ever do that, because it gives us astrologers a really, 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 really bad name. So what happens if you tell that person told the other person gets hurt, the person B sees that astrologer, maybe that person is upset at the astrologer for giving that information to their partner. Maybe that person is violent. We don't want that to happen. So we always, always, always have to come back to the essential, fundamental fact. Well, I suppose it's not a, I guess it's not a fact. It's a belief of mine, but it sure helps a lot, of free will. And we can talk free will versus determinism all day. I mean, wasn't that the essay in your comparative literature honors AP English course in high school? Free will versus determinism. Go. We're astrologers. We could very easily say, oh, well, Pluto's going to move into Aquarius at this time, and there are these possibilities, and look at artificial intelligence already, so we can make some predictions. So determinism, sure, the cycle goes and the rhythms flow. However, we have to honor the sacredness of individual life choice. And we as astrologers absolutely cannot make a choice for somebody. No, you should do this. You should be this. This is the way it should go. Instead, we have to present the future, and the past for that matter, as fields of potential based on our level of conscious preference. So we've got a Jupiter transit coming up, let's say. Let's say the one everybody's been waiting for. It's your Jupiter return. Hey, you're going to be lucky. You're going to find your teacher, play a bunch of contests. You know, your name might get pulled out of the hat. It's Jupiter return. Hey, everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be wonderful. And the person, and then you tell that to somebody, and then that person's sitting around doing absolutely nothing, waiting for something wonderful to happen. And like is possible with Jupiter transits, we can just be so arrogant that, hey, we deserve it. I'm just waiting for it, and I don't have to do anything. And what just happened? Opportunity just passed you by, dude. Passed you by. You got to take advantage of those. You got to play the game to win. You got to put your name in the hat if you want it drawn. You got to ask for the teacher to appear. So we have to use our wording, our languaging very, very, very carefully. We don't want to give people false hopes. We also don't want to give people false fears. Oh, Saturn's about to transit your 6th house. In opposition to your Saturn, square your Venus, which is opposing your moon, so it's squaring your moon. Okay, dude, you know, I mean, can you imagine the fear of the client? Is like, you're building up to something horrible, and even though even though it might not be horrible, I'm still putting all of this conscious energy into it being horrible because you're the astrologer. You can see the future and the past. So, you say at the beginning, hi. Thanks for giving me money and trusting me. You're getting my opinion. Don't put so much weight in this. Yeah, you're getting a Jupiter transit. There's this set of possibilities. And since everything is a two-sided coin, there's this set of possibilities. It is up to you to choose, to do your best to choose to resonate with your highest choices. And it's our job as astrologers to also say, this is what happens if we approach it from fear or sorrow or anger. This is the possibility of the potential of what can happen when we approach it from fear, sorrow, or anger. So, very, very, very important. Next point. Hi, I adhere to all codes and ethics that would a doctor, lawyer, priest, or psychologist. Now, I did not take the ISAR training of certification, one third of which, I don't know, don't quote me on it, a percentage of it is a course in ethics. And and ISAR has a bunch of rules and codes and ethics that they suggest astrologers follow, such as if you've known the person before and they come into a reading, then 6 months has to elapse before you can engage in relationship. If you didn't know them, then a year has to transpire after the reading if you are to engage in any relationship with that client, according to ISAR code and ethics. I think that's incredibly, what's the word? Conservative? How about 3 years? How about 10 years? The point is that when we as astrologers are in this place as astrologers and relating to our client, we are in this incredible place of perceived power, perceived power projected upon us. And so, somebody comes in the first time, oh, wow, the astrologer, oh, they're so cool, they're so amazing. Oh, wow, oh, I think I'm in love. No, boundaries. This is my space. This is your space. I am the astrologer. I'm downloading this information for your soul's evolution. I am a priest. Look at me as a priest. That is the boundary. For you as astrologers, even if your dream person walks in the door, boundary, years. You don't want to mix it up. You don't want to make any, you don't want to make things, up in your head. Don't want to be, the great astrologer, and then you finally get into a relationship and they find out that you have a chart too, full of its own magic and mystery and pain and drama and horror. And so, oh yeah, as soon as we are seen as something, sorry, boundary, you can see me as that thing all you want, but this is my job, is to tell you all about you as I see it, in the encouragement of your soul's evolution as I see it. It's my job. There is, for you as astrologers, to not add anything else into that mix. Yes, it's obvious. Yes, it goes without saying. But I have seen astrologers fall into unfortunate places by not having those kinds of boundaries, and then getting themselves into some messy places. So, doctor, lawyer, priest, psychologist, same code of ethics. You're not going to extort money. You're not going to try to get them into bed. You're not going to, use it, to get the good job because they're the CEO, and you're not going to use this astrology stuff in any manipulative way, because again, with great power comes great responsibility, which takes us to the next part. I always say this is sacred space. Now again, I'm Neptunian. everything, every space is sacred space. And so when we can get to that place, that Neptunian place of compassion and openness and imagination and wanting to see all sentient beings happy and free, and we drop our own stuff, we drop our fears. Oh, am I doing a good job? Am I reading this right? Or do they think I'm cool? Or are they happy? We drop all of that. Then the symbols begin to open up. The symbols become gateways then for more information to come. And if we've set up this feeling of just being so humble with this incredible power, then you don't know what's going to come. But when we can stay open and compassionate and loving, here to hopefully free as best as we can, help to free the suffering of souls, then stuff comes in. You've experienced that. Where does that come from? Well, that comes from what we could call the Akashic field. That comes from the compendicum of all knowledge that has ever been, never will be. It's all there. We can tap into it through our imagination and through our love and compassion. So if we as astrologers have a sense of the sacred, and we can inject that into what it is that we are offering our clients, then there are all sorts of other things that will hook on that carrier wave that the client will download that we may not have even said or had any recollection saying. They will hear things that we maybe allude to, and then it triggers something in them and then goes to the place where it needs to go, because we are in that sacred space. So sometimes that can be a charged word, sacred. How do you define it? It's different for everybody, etc. Your own definition of the sacred to go into that space. You can channel more than you think you are channeling. 2 more things. Don't remember the readings. I don't. Now, I have a friend of mine, great. Actually, I will plug his name, Harry Farmer, one of the world's greatest astrologers. I'm sure you can find him on Facebook. Maybe he's at hfastrologer.com. Dear, dear, dear friend of mine. He remembers every chart. If I called him up now, I haven't talked to him in 4 or 5 months. If I called him up now, he'd be like, "Oh, has your progressed moon hit your Chiron Eris conjunction yet in your 10th house Aries? How do you know that? How do you remember that? Can you make those calculations?" Everybody, he holds on to everything. He knows everybody's chart that he has ever done. He's a human computer. He's amazing. And I remember nothing because, and for myself, if I were to hold on to everybody's stuff, I would go crazy. I'm Cancer rising, Neptunian. I see at the co-op. I know you're having a Pluto transit of your sun, and we just talked about it. And okay, you reel in the Neptune, and strengthen up the heartstrings, because that's their stuff. This is my stuff. It's with the boundary stuff. This is my space. That is your space. So we have to be very careful what we commit to memory, what energy we say, I'm really getting into this chart and I'm gonna, really commit it to my being, and then we do the reading, and then for the next 5 hours we can't stop thinking about it, or we can't stop thinking about what we should have said, or oh my God, did I say the right thing? Did I say the wrong thing? If I only would have said this thing, then they would have understood this thing that maybe they didn't understand. And do you get paid for that? No, you do not. Unless you charge $200 for a reading and you get paid, and you tell yourself, well, I'm just going to get paid $2 an hour because I'm going to do the reading. I'm going to prep for it for an hour. I'm going to do the reading. And then for the next, 7, 10, 20 hours, I'm going to think about it. Don't do that. Do the reading and leave it. You must separate yourself from your client. If I do 2 readings in a day, I have then just really gotten incredibly deeply intimate with 2 people's lives. And I want to be intimate with 2 people's lives in the capacity as astrological consultant only. And so therefore, time's up, or how was that? Y'all good? Everything? Any more questions? Y'all good? You're saturated? Okay, bye. Then it's bye. Then they have gone, they have left, and you don't hold on to it, and you are free to go do your gardening, or make your cheese, or string your hops, or whatever you have to do after this EA Zoom meeting. So, sound right? You don't want to sit there all night. Your wife comes home and, oh, hi, honey. Oh, yeah, that one reading. Oh, my God, and this person, and I just can't shake it. And no, you have to have a dump file. You have to have a filter. Whatever you can do to leave the reading with that person. Again, I literally commit it to my dump file. I dump it right after the reading. I don't remember them. It works for me. Suggesting it work for you. Lastly, and most importantly, and I have talked about this actually throughout, but I say to every single one of my clients that I don't do prediction. How can you not do prediction? Can't you see that Saturn is going to be rising above this person's descendant and coming up into the world in their 7th house? That means something, right? I mean, that's why we do this stuff, because there's meaning in this mystery. And so with that meaning, we can easily say to this person, hey, you've spent the last 2.5 years, possibly, you spent the last 2.5 years in the self-perfection mode. You've been working hard at mastering your craft. And now it's time to bring it out into the world. And you know what? If someone's done a Saturn transit of their 6th house, and they have done it consciously, then maybe they have improved their diet. Maybe they have started exercising. Maybe they have gone to the dentist. And maybe the things that pushed them to those things were some challenges. We as astrologers have the insight of that field of potential, because what astrology is being able to translate the symbology, which is a field of potential. But how many astrologers on the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump panel said Hillary Clinton was going to win? I mean, nothing on any of the astrologers who predicted Hillary Clinton was going to win the election, but it just goes to show you, doesn't it? It just goes to show you that ultimately we don't know anything. And ultimately, we have no idea where we are. We have no idea how this universe was created. We have no idea what happens after death, really. We have a lot of really good guesses, and there's been some experiences that can corroborate those guesses and that faith that we have of whatever we believe is, period. So this universe is a mystery. And I would venture to say that many of us do this astrology stuff so as to find the meaning and the purpose in the mystery and how to jump on to those vibrational waves of potential and make the best of it. Oh, there's this potential commonly agreed upon transit that sounds like a great potential for trauma or darkness or hardship or loss or challenge. Some outer planet transit. And we have to be very real with the possibilities of it being a shadow experience. And we also have to be real with the possibilities of it being a really transformative breakthrough or transcendental or rejuvenative or reconstructive experience. So again, we have to be very, 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 very conscious when we communicate what we perceive as a high potential in the field for any particular outcome. Again, Saturn rising up into the realm of the seen, from the underworld into the realm of the seen, from the 6th house, crossing the horizon into the 7th house. That's huge, right? That's big. There's not an astrologer, I would hope, that would look at that and say, oh yeah, well, Saturn's going into your 7th house. Time to do some work with other people. And we can say these things. Oh, now it's time to get married. Saturn's going into your 7th house. Time to get married. And we may be right. Maybe Saturn's conjunction with the descendant will signify marriage for some people. But what if you're wrong? You said I was going to get married and that jerk left me at the altar. Well, I guess that was one of the possibilities or potentials of Saturn. I mean, Saturn's hard, right? Saturn's a challenge, right? Saturn says life sucks and then you die, right? And we scramble. So again, when we talk about prediction, or what's another word? Or what's the opposite of that? Post-diction? Is that a word? When we look into the past and say this thing happened in the past, whether or not we know it. What did we call that? I don't know. Tell me after the meeting if there is a word for that. For now, I'm going to call it post-diction. Post-diction. So when we try to say something is that we don't know, either in the future or in the past, we must know that we do not know. That is what Confucius said. to know that we know what we know, and that we do not know what we do not know is knowledge. And so my suggestion is that when we, as astrologers, engage other people and they think that we can see the future, that we get real with them and say, we can see a field of potential. We can see a field of possibilities. Choose according to the higher expressions of these archetypes, and the potential for these great things increases. Choose to get fearful, sorrowful, or angry in relation to these set of archetypes. It increases the possibility for a shadow expression. It doesn't mean that the opposite couldn't be true. So, just because you're having your Jupiter return doesn't mean that you're going to find your guru and win the sweepstakes. But we can suggest it as a field of potential and possibilities. And if we tune our guitar string to the true E that we're hearing, then we can play along with the tune with greater harmony. Okay? So, that will conclude my monologue. At this point, in the last remaining, 6